Beloved, consider the wonder of your life's beginning and the hand of God upon your childhood. From your earliest days, signs of divine selection were woven into the tapestry of your story, like threads of gold amidst the ordinary. Let us ponder these 7 signs that you, even as a child, were chosen by the Almighty for His purposes. Even in the innocence of childhood, there are those whose hearts seem to carry a weight far beyond their years, a deep sense of purpose that whispers of something greater. Such a calling is not born of human will, but planted by the hand of God, a seed destined to grow in time. It is a quiet, persistent sense that your life is not ordinary, but woven into a divine plan. But from the earliest moments, this purpose manifests in subtle ways. While others are content with fleeting pleasures, your thoughts wander to profound questions. Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? These are not the musings of most children, yet for you they were unavoidable. Even without answers, you felt compelled to seek. This sense of purpose often made you different. While your peers may have delighted in every passing trend, you found yourself drawn to deeper pursuits. Perhaps you loved stories that stirred your soul, or moments of solitude where you could ponder the mysteries of life. It was not that you rejected the joys of childhood, but that something within you reached for more. There were times when this longing felt like a burden. You may have wondered why you couldn't simply enjoy the carefree spirit of those around you. Yet even in your frustration, the call remained a gentle, unyielding reminder that your path would be unique. The very fact that you wrestled with these thoughts was evidence of the hand of God shaping you, even when you didn't understand. Others may not have noticed, but there were moments when your heart was moved by things others overlooked. A stirring sunset, a kind word, or an act of injustice would pierce your soul in ways you could not explain. These moments were not accidental, they were glimpses of the purpose to which you were called, drawing your attention to what truly matters. This calling was not without its challenges. At times you may have felt isolated, misunderstood by those who could not see the weight you carried. Yet even in those moments of loneliness, you were never alone. The longing in your heart was a reflection of the one who placed it there, gently reminding you that your purpose was not to fit in, but to fulfill His will. Your sense of purpose likely made you attentive to the needs of others. Even as a child, you may have found yourself comforting a friend, standing up for someone who was wronged, or simply being a listening ear. This was not accidental. It was the early evidence of a heart tuned to the voice of God, ready to serve in ways that only you could. There were also moments of clarity when you felt an inexplicable certainty about what you should do or where you should go. These were not flashes of brilliance, but gentle nudges from the divine, guiding you even when you did not fully understand. Such moments were a gift, a foretaste of the purpose you would one day walk in fully. As you grew, this sense of purpose may have become both a comfort and a challenge. It drove you forward, urging you to pursue what was good and true. Yet it also required sacrifices. You may have had to walk away from paths that seemed easier or more popular, trusting that the one who called you would also sustain you. Now, as you look back, you can see the hand of God in those early days. The longing in your heart was not a coincidence, but a sign that you were chosen for something greater. Even as a child, He was preparing you, shaping you, and calling you into His purpose. Trust that the same God who began this good work will bring it to completion, for His plans for you are perfect and His calling is sure. Even as a child, there was within you an innate sensitivity to the forces of good and evil, a discernment that went beyond the natural understanding of one so young. While others may have stumbled through moral ambiguities, you instinctively recognized the difference between right and wrong, as if an unseen hand guided your heart. This unusual sensitivity was not a product of your upbringing alone. It was a gift, a mark of divine favor, preparing you for the life to which you were called. In the innocence of childhood, this awareness manifested in small but profound ways. You may have found yourself moved to tears by an act of cruelty, even if others around you seemed indifferent. The injustice of wrong-doing, whether it was a harsh word, an unfair punishment, or an act of unkindness, stirred your soul deeply. It was as though your spirit could not bear the weight of evil, no matter how small. Conversely, acts of goodness shone brightly to you. A simple gesture of kindness, a word of encouragement, or the selflessness of a stranger resonated within you as something sacred. While others might take such moments for granted, you recognized them as glimpses of something divine. This sensitivity made you unusually attentive to the moral fabric of the world around you. This discernment was not without its struggles. Often you may have felt a sense of discomfort, or even isolation when others did not share your perspective. When peers or even adults justified wrongdoing or dismissed acts of goodness as insignificant, you were left with a quiet unease. Yet, even in those moments, your conscience remained steadfast, urging you to stand firm in what you knew to be true. There were likely moments when you felt compelled to speak out against injustice, even at great personal cost. Perhaps you stood up for a classmate who was being bullied, refused to participate in a harmful activity, or voiced an opinion that went against the crowd. These actions may have seemed small at the time, but they were evidence of a heart tuned to the voice of righteousness, unwilling to compromise with evil. This sensitivity also brought moments of inner conflict. There were times when the weight of the world's brokenness felt overwhelming, when you wished you could ignore the wrongs around you and simply blend in. Yet even in those moments of weakness you found strength not in yourself, but in the conviction that good must prevail. This inner struggle refined you, teaching you to lean on the one who is the source of all goodness. You may have also noticed an unusual awareness of your own shortcomings. While others excused their faults or ignored their flaws, you were keenly aware of the need for grace. This sensitivity to your own moral failings was not meant to burden you, but to draw you closer to the one who forgives. It was a reminder that the same discernment you applied to the world must also be applied to your own heart. Over time, this gift of discernment began to mature. You learned not only to recognize good and evil, but to respond with wisdom and grace. You understood that confronting wrong requires courage, but also compassion, and that promoting good demands both action and humility. These lessons, though hard-won, were part of your preparation for the life God had called you to live. This sensitivity to good and evil is a mark of being chosen, for it reflects the heart of the one who is wholly good. It is a reflection of His Spirit within you, guiding your steps and shaping your character. While others may dismiss or overlook such sensitivity, you know it to be a gift, a sign that you were set apart for His purposes. As you reflect on this gift, take heart in knowing that it is not a burden but a blessing. Your awareness of good and evil is a light in a dark world, a testimony to the presence of God in your life. Trust in His guidance, for the one who gave you this gift will also give you the strength to walk in it, to stand for what is right, and to shine His light in all you do. From an early age, there were moments in your life where danger loomed large and harm seemed inevitable. Yet, in those very moments, an unseen hand shielded you, turning calamity into testimony. These instances of divine protection were not mere coincidences or strokes of luck. They were signs of a higher purpose, a calling upon your life that required you to be preserved. Even in your youth, these moments pointed to a God who watches over His chosen, ensuring their steps are ordered and their lives safeguarded. Perhaps there was a near accident, a fall, a close call with traffic, or a situation where injury seemed certain. Yet somehow you walked away unscathed. You may have marveled at how narrowly you escaped harm, not realizing at the time that it was God's hand protecting you. The very fact that you were spared spoke of His intimate involvement in your life, even before you fully understood who He was. In other situations, danger may have come through illness or a health crisis that could have claimed your life. Yet against all odds you recovered. These moments were not simply about survival, but about divine intervention. They served as reminders that your life was not your own, that you were preserved for a purpose that extended beyond the ordinary. The hand of God was evident in every detail, orchestrating your recovery in ways that defied explanation. There may have been times when others' decisions or actions put you at risk, whether through recklessness, negligence, or malice. Yet even then you were shielded. The threat, though real, could not touch you because of God's protective presence. These experiences, though terrifying in the moment, became testimonies of His faithfulness. They reminded you that no weapon formed against you could prosper, for His plans for your life were sovereign. Even emotional and psychological harm did not have the final say over you. Perhaps you were subjected to harsh words, bullying, or environments that could have broken your spirit. Yet, instead of being crushed, you found strength to rise above. This resilience was not of your own making. It was the work of the One who sustains the weary and binds up the broken-hearted. His protection extended beyond your physical being to encompass your mind and soul. These moments of divine protection also cultivated in you a sense of awe and gratitude. As you reflected on how narrowly you escaped harm, your heart was drawn to the One who spared you. These experiences deepened your faith, teaching you that His care is not abstract but deeply personal. They reminded you that you are seen, known, and loved by a God who values your life immeasurably. There were likely times when others acknowledged the miraculous nature of your protection. Family members, friends, or even strangers may have remarked on how fortunate you were, though you knew it was far more than luck. Their words served as confirmation of what you already sensed in your heart, that your life was under divine watch. Such moments not only strengthened your faith, but also bore witness to others of God's power and love. Through these experiences, you also learned to trust in God's timing and sovereignty. While you may not have understood why danger came so close or why others were not spared in similar situations, you began to see that His ways are higher than ours. His protection was not random but purposeful, aligning with the calling He placed on your life. Each instance of deliverance became a building block in the foundation of your faith. These moments also equipped you to face future challenges with courage and confidence. Knowing that God had protected you in the past gave you assurance that He would continue to do so. This confidence was not arrogance, but a quiet trust in His unfailing care. It allowed you to walk boldly into situations where fear might otherwise have paralyzed you. As you look back on your youth, the moments of divine protection stand out as markers of God's presence and purpose in your life. They remind you that you are not here by accident, but by His design. They are evidence of His hand guiding and guarding you, preparing you for the plans He has for you. Trust in His continued protection, for the God who preserved you then is the same God who walks with you now, ensuring that no harm can thwart His divine purpose for your life. In other instances, guidance came through subtle impressions on your heart. Perhaps you stood at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take, and a quiet assurance nudged you in one direction. You didn't know why you felt so strongly compelled, but as you followed that sense of direction, you later realized it was the right choice. Such moments were not mere coincidences, they were divine interventions, teaching you even as a child to trust in the One who leads with perfect wisdom. Sometimes encounters with the divine came in the form of comfort during sorrow. As a child, you might have experienced loss, disappointment, or moments when the weight of life felt heavy. In those times, a sense of warmth would fill your heart, as though God Himself were wrapping you in His arms. These were reminders that His love is not distant or abstract, but present and deeply personal, meeting you in your moments of need. There were also moments of unexplainable joy, times when the beauty of creation or the kindness of others brought tears to your eyes. Perhaps it was a radiant sunrise, the laughter of a loved one, or the stillness of a quiet evening that stirred something deep within you. These moments were more than fleeting emotions, they were glimpses of God's glory, invitations to recognize His handiwork in the world around you. At times you may have felt an unshakable conviction in your heart, a certainty about what was right and true. Even when others doubted or dismissed your beliefs, you stood firm, knowing that this conviction was not born of your own understanding. It was the voice of God, gently but powerfully affirming His truth to your spirit. Such experiences shaped your sense of purpose, instilling in you a commitment to live in alignment with His will. There were occasions when Scripture or prayer seemed to come alive in a way that words alone could not explain. Perhaps a Bible verse spoke directly to your situation, or a prayer brought clarity and peace you didn't expect. These were sacred moments, where the Word of God leapt from the page and into your heart, affirming His presence and reminding you that He hears and responds to those who seek Him. As a child, you may have had dreams or visions that felt different from ordinary imagination dreams that carried a sense of purpose, comfort, or calling. Though you might not have fully understood their meaning at the time, these were ways in which God communicated with you, planting seeds of faith and destiny that would grow as you matured. In some moments, the presence of God felt almost tangible, like a weight of holiness that settled over you. It might have been during a quiet time of reflection, a church service, or even in the solitude of your own room. These experiences left you in awe, filling you with a reverence that words could not capture. They were reminders that the God who created the universe is also the God who seeks a personal relationship with you. Encounters with the divine often came through the love and care of others, family, friends, or even strangers whose kindness reflected the heart of God. These individuals were instruments of His grace, sent to remind you of His unfailing love and to encourage you on your journey. Their actions were a tangible expression of the truth that God works through people to accomplish His purposes. Sometimes these encounters came through protection in dangerous situations. As a child, there may have been moments when harm seemed imminent, yet you emerged unscathed. Whether it was an accident narrowly avoided or a sudden sense of danger that prompted you to change course, these experiences were not random. They were signs of God's protective hand, guarding you for the purpose He had prepared for your life. As you reflect on these encounters, you begin to see a pattern, a consistent thread of God's presence woven throughout your life. They were not isolated incidents, but part of a greater story, revealing His desire to draw you closer to Himself. Each moment, whether dramatic or subtle, was a reminder that you were seen, known, and loved by the one who called you His own. These experiences, though they may have seemed mysterious at the time, were a foundation for your faith. They taught you to recognize God's voice, to trust His leading, and to rest in His love. They were the markers of a divine relationship that began long before you fully understood it, preparing you for the calling and purpose He has placed on your life. Through these encounters you were reminded that you are never alone, for the God who spoke to your heart as a child continues to walk with you, guiding you into the fullness of His plan. This longing for truth also set you apart socially. While others were content with shallow conversations, you desired meaningful dialogue. You sought friends and mentors who could guide you, teach you, and help you navigate the complexities of life. Though this sometimes made you feel different or even isolated, it was part of the process of becoming who you were meant to be, a seeker of wisdom, someone destined to walk a path less traveled. Your hunger for truth often brought you into conflict with the lies of the world. You instinctively rejected falsehoods, even when they were popular or widely accepted. This discernment was not something you developed on your own, but a gift from the one who is truth Himself. It protected you from paths that would have led you astray and kept you focused on what truly mattered. In your search for truth, you discovered the limitations of human wisdom. No matter how much you learned, there was always more to uncover. This realization humbled you and turned your eyes toward the divine. You began to see that true wisdom comes not from the world but from above. This insight was the beginning of a lifelong journey toward knowing the author of all truth. Your hunger for truth also gave you a sense of responsibility. You recognized that truth was not something to be hoarded but shared. Even as a child, you felt a burden for others to see and understand what you were discovering. This desire to share truth with others was a sign of the purpose placed upon your life, a calling to be a light in the darkness and a voice of clarity in a world of confusion. This deep longing for understanding shaped your prayers and your relationship with God. You did not come to Him with empty words or mere rituals, but with questions, struggles, and a desire to know Him more fully. Your prayers were often raw and honest, reflecting the depth of your hunger for truth. Through these moments your faith grew and your understanding of His nature deepened. As you reflect on your journey, this hunger for truth stands as a testament to the hand of God upon your life. It is not a burden but a blessing, a sign that you were chosen for a purpose greater than yourself. The same hunger that drove you as a child continues to guide you today, reminding you that truth is not just an idea but a person, the one who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. Trust in this truth, for it will never fail you, and it will always lead you home." From your earliest days, there was something in you that resisted the pull of the crowd. While others around you seemed content to follow the pattern set before them, you found it difficult, even impossible, to conform. This wasn't born out of rebellion or a desire to stand out, but from an innate sense of being called to something different, something higher. It was as though your spirit recognized that the path meant for you could not be walked in lockstep with the masses. You were often labeled as peculiar, perhaps even misunderstood. While peers were eager to fit in, you questioned the norms. Why should things be done this way? What was the purpose behind the traditions and trends others so eagerly embraced? These questions isolated you at times, but they also defined you. They were not a sign of weakness, but of strength, a refusal to settle for anything less than what aligned with the truth planted deep within your heart. This resistance to conformity became evident in your choices. Whether it was the friends you kept, the pursuits you prioritized, or the values you held dear, you often went against the grain. While others sought approval from the world, you sought something greater. This often meant walking a lonelier road, but even in those moments of solitude you felt an unseen hand guiding you, affirming that you were on the right path. The pressure to conform was not without its challenges. There were moments when you questioned yourself, wondering if it would be easier to follow the crowd. But each time you considered it, something within you stirred a quiet but firm reminder that you were not called to blend in but to stand apart. This inner conviction was not self-made but a gift, a sign that your life was set apart for a purpose greater than the fleeting approval of others. Even as a child, this resistance to conformity shaped your decisions. You didn't choose activities or hobbies simply because they were popular. Instead, you gravitated toward things that resonated with your soul, things that seemed to echo the unique purpose for which you were created. This often baffled those around you, but it was a testament to the distinct calling on your life, a calling that would not allow you to settle for anything less than authenticity. Your resistance to conformity extended to your moral and spiritual life. While others might have compromised their values for the sake of acceptance, you felt an unshakable commitment to doing what was right, even when it was difficult. This conviction set you apart and often made you a target of ridicule or criticism. But even in those moments you stood firm, knowing that your allegiance was not to the opinions of others but to the one who had called you by name. This steadfastness came with a cost. You may have lost friendships or faced rejection, but each loss served to refine you. It taught you to rely not on the approval of people but on the unwavering love of God. Through these experiences you learned that true belonging is not found in the shifting sands of public opinion but in the solid foundation of His truth. Over time, your resistance to conformity became a source of strength for others. People began to see in you a courage they admired but did not always understand. Your willingness to stand apart inspired them to question their own paths and to seek a deeper sense of purpose. Without realizing it, your quiet resistance became a light for those who were searching for a way out of the darkness. This refusal to conform was not a rejection of people but of the patterns and systems that lead away from the truth. You learned to love others even as you resisted the ways of the world. This balance, standing firm in your convictions while extending grace, was a mark of the wisdom and maturity that the hand of God had cultivated in you. As you look back on your journey, your resistance to conformity is a clear sign of the purpose and calling on your life. It was never about being different for its own sake, but about being faithful to who you were created to be. This distinctiveness, though it set you apart, was always meant to draw you closer to the one who made you. And in that closeness you find the strength to continue walking the path that was chosen just for you. From your earliest days, life presented challenges that seemed insurmountable. Yet, in the midst of those struggles, there was always a sense that you were not alone. Even when the obstacles were great and your strength seemed small, there was an unseen hand guiding you, providing clarity and support in ways that defied explanation. This silent presence was a testament to the divine care that surrounded you, even when you were too young to fully understand it. As a child, there were moments of confusion and pain when the world felt overwhelming. Perhaps it was the loneliness of feeling misunderstood, the sting of rejection, or the fear of an uncertain future. Yet, just when despair threatened to take hold, a sense of peace would quietly settle over you. It was not the kind of peace that came from external circumstances, but an inner assurance that somehow things would be all right. This peace was not born of your own strength, but was a gift from above, a sign that you were being watched over. At times, guidance came through people placed in your life at just the right moment, a kind word from a teacher, a comforting presence in a friend, or wisdom from a parent or mentor. These encounters were not mere coincidences, but divine appointments, orchestrated to provide the help and encouragement you needed. Through these experiences, you began to sense that your life was not left to chance, but was held in the careful hands of a loving Creator. Even in the face of significant challenges, you found moments of clarity that felt as though they had been whispered directly into your heart. Whether it was a sudden understanding of what to do, a creative solution to a problem, or an unexpected sense of direction, these moments were like light piercing through the darkness. They were reminders that you were not walking your path alone, that there was a greater wisdom guiding your steps. The support you received was not always immediate or obvious. Sometimes it required patience and trust as answers unfolded in their own time. Looking back, you can see how each challenge was met with provision, often in ways you could not have predicted. Whether it was strength to endure, resources that appeared when you needed them most, or a change in circumstances that worked in your favor, these moments bore the unmistakable mark of divine care. There were times when the guidance you received was subtle, almost imperceptible. A small nudge to make a certain choice, a lingering feeling of unease about a particular path, or an unexplainable sense of peace about a difficult decision. These were the quiet ways in which God directed your steps. Though you might not have recognized it at the time, these gentle prompts were evidence of His involvement in even the smallest details of your life. Your struggles, though difficult, served a purpose far greater than you could have imagined. Each challenge you faced was an opportunity for growth, a chance to build resilience and deepen your faith. The unseen guidance you experienced was not meant to shield you from hardship, but to equip you to overcome it. Through these experiences, you learned to rely not on your own strength, but on the strength of the One who was always with you. In moments of despair, when all seemed lost, there were breakthroughs that felt almost miraculous. Situations that appeared hopeless were turned around, and burdens that seemed too heavy to bear were lifted. These instances were not accidents, but signs of divine intervention, reminders that nothing is beyond the reach of God's care. Each time you were delivered, your faith grew stronger, and your trust in His plan deepened. As you grew, the lessons from your struggles began to shape your character. You became more compassionate, more understanding of the pain others might carry. The guidance you received in your own difficulties taught you to be a source of encouragement and support to others. You began to see that the challenges you faced were not just about you, but were part of a greater story, one that included helping those around you. The unseen guidance you experienced also gave you a deep sense of gratitude. You came to understand that every good thing in your life, every moment of clarity and support, was a gift. This realization filled you with humility and a desire to honor the One who had been so faithful to you. Your struggles became a testimony, a way to point others to the same source of hope and strength that sustained you. As you reflect on those early years, it becomes clear that the unseen guidance in your struggles was not just about overcoming individual challenges. It was about preparing you for the purpose you were created for. Each obstacle was a stepping stone, each moment of clarity a signpost, pointing you toward the unique calling on your life. Through it all, you were being shaped and molded, refined for the work you were meant to do. This journey, though marked by difficulty, was also marked by grace. The unseen guidance you received was a constant reminder that you were never abandoned, never forgotten. Even when the way forward seemed unclear, you were being led by a hand that saw the end from the beginning. This assurance gave you the courage to keep moving forward, trusting that the one who guided you then would continue to guide you in the days to come. Your childhood struggles, and the guidance you received through them, were a testament to the love and care of God. They were a sign that you were chosen, set apart for a purpose that only you could fulfill. And as you look back, you see not just the challenges, but the faithfulness of the one who carried you through them, shaping your life into a testimony of his unending grace and guidance. From your earliest days, there were moments you couldn't quite explain, times when the world seemed to pause, and a presence beyond your understanding enveloped you. These were encounters with the divine, unmistakable yet tender, leading, comforting, and speaking to your heart. In childhood, such experiences often felt like quiet whispers in the midst of life's noise, yet their profound impact lingered long after they had passed. You may recall a time when fear gripped your young heart, perhaps a storm raged outside, or you faced a situation that left you feeling helpless. In those moments, an unshakable peace would descend upon you, calming your fears. It wasn't the result of a comforting word from another person, or a logical reassurance, but something deeper. It was as if an unseen hand rested on your shoulder, reminding you that you were not alone. This peace was the gentle presence of God, drawing near to remind you of his care. In other instances, guidance came through subtle impressions on your heart. Perhaps you stood at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take, and a quiet assurance nudged you in one direction. You didn't know why you felt so strongly compelled, but as you followed that sense of direction, you later realized it was the right choice. Such moments were not mere coincidences, they were divine interventions, teaching you even as a child to trust in the one who leads with perfect wisdom. Sometimes encounters with the divine came in the form of comfort during sorrow. As a child, you might have experienced loss, disappointment, or moments when the weight of life felt heavy. In those times, a sense of warmth would fill your heart, as though God himself were wrapping you in his arms. These were reminders that his love is not distant or abstract, but present and deeply personal, meeting you in your moments of need. There were also moments of unexplainable joy, times when the beauty of creation or the kindness of others brought tears to your eyes. Perhaps it was a radiant sunrise, the laughter of a loved one, or the stillness of a quiet evening that stirred something deep within you. These moments were more than fleeting emotions, they were glimpses of God's glory, invitations to recognize his handiwork in the world around you. At times you may have felt an unshakable conviction in your heart, a certainty about what was right and true. Even when others doubted or dismissed your beliefs, you stood firm, knowing that this conviction was not born of your own understanding. It was the voice of God, gently but powerfully affirming his truth to your spirit. Such experiences shaped your sense of purpose, instilling in you a commitment to live in alignment with his will. There were occasions when scripture or prayer seemed to come alive in a way that words alone could not explain. Perhaps a Bible verse spoke directly to your situation, or a prayer brought clarity and peace you didn't expect. These were sacred moments, where the Word of God leapt from the page and into your heart, affirming his presence and reminding you that he hears and responds to those who seek him. As a child, you may have had dreams or visions that felt different from ordinary imagination, dreams that carried a sense of purpose, comfort, or calling. Though you might not have fully understood their meaning at the time, these were ways in which God communicated with you, planting seeds of faith and destiny that would grow as you matured. In some moments, the presence of God felt almost tangible, like a weight of holiness that settled over you. It might have been during a quiet time of reflection, a church service, or even in the solitude of your own room. These experiences left you in awe, filling you with a reverence that words could not capture. They were reminders that the God who created the universe is also the God who seeks a personal relationship with you. Encounters with the divine often came through the love and care of others, family, friends, or even strangers whose kindness reflected the heart of God. These individuals were instruments of His grace, sent to remind you of His unfailing love and to encourage you on your journey. Their actions were a tangible expression of the truth that God works through people to accomplish His purposes. Sometimes these encounters came through protection in dangerous situations. As a child, there may have been moments when harm seemed imminent, yet you emerged unscathed. Whether it was an accident narrowly avoided or a sudden sense of danger that prompted you to change course, these experiences were not random. They were signs of God's protective hand, guarding you for the purpose He had prepared for your life. As you reflect on these encounters, you begin to see a pattern, a consistent thread of God's presence woven throughout your life. They were not isolated incidents, but part of a greater story, revealing His desire to draw you closer to Himself. Each moment, whether dramatic or subtle, was a reminder that you were seen, known, and loved by the one who called you His own. These experiences, though they may have seemed mysterious at the time, were a foundation for your faith. They taught you to recognize God's voice, to trust His leading, and to rest in His love. They were the markers of a divine relationship that began long before you fully understood it, preparing you for the calling and purpose He has placed on your life. Through these encounters, you were reminded that you are never alone, for the God who spoke to your heart as a child continues to walk with you, guiding you into the fullness of His plan.